Hello, beautiful. This is OKeba Anahata Ra, and I'm coming to you back with part two of my video talking about the Heru or the hero, and that the hero gets the prize. And so we're speaking about the type of qualities that would qualify a man as a Heru. Now, rest assured, we are going to talk about the prize, which is you ladies. You ladies, you are the prize. But there are different types of prizes, right? If you think of, let's say, anywhere where a person can win a prize, like a carnival or such, or one of those gaming places, there are all sorts of prizes that exist there. They have small little cheap prizes and then they have big prizes, like you could win a whole Wii system, something that is very expensive. So we're going to talk about that a little bit further in terms of these attributes of a woman, and talking about you as a prize. But for those of you who have not checked out my part one of this video, please do so. And also check out the video that led to this one, which is the video about saying, ladies, you are the prize. Okay, check out those videos, which I will link them below. And so just going into this, again, like I said, these are qualities that, in my opinion, would make a man a good man, for allowing him to pursue you, to be the hero in your life, and so that you would be his prize. Again, I have to preface this by saying that I am kind of old-fashioned and traditional, and so I believe in creating that dynamic, that feminine masculine dynamic in a relationship. And you see it all around you and everything in nature, that masculinity and femininity, they flow together when they are working, not doing exactly the same things, but rather in complementary pairs, right? And so that's what I'm speaking about here, creating that complement. And so we're talking about the male complement. And the male complement, it can come in different packages. These are just talking about qualities. So this is not necessarily talking about how much money he makes or how he looks in the body and all of that. But let me just say, as just suggestions and words. Again, like I said, these videos are largely for women who are in that range of about 19 to around 29, and there's a reason why I use that age. Go check out my video on dating advice, and I'll explain a little further in that video as to why I'm talking about that age range. Other women may be able to get something from this, but that's largely the target age I'm speaking about here. So anyway, nowadays you all are being pushed very much so on a regular basis and encouraged to, go after top tier. These men, these six-figure men and all of that. And, you may not be there. And more than likely you're not there in terms of your own, that may not be your social economic status. Let me say that. There are things that men like that look for. And there are things that all men look for, actually. But men like that are being sought after by multitudes of women, usually, unless he's just that's a whole other story. But men like that are being sought after by multitudes of women, and so you're really competing with all those women. And so there's a lot to consider with that. To me, that's impractical. What I would suggest, I like what the Bible speaks about that, and that is, it says for men, marrying the wives of your youth, right? Some of you may have grown up with the men who would be good for you. Some of you met or will meet or have met someone in your schooling. Maybe you went to college and you met someone who was there who would be a good match for you, or someone on the job, or who's in that certain types of field, or someone who you see about who's in your surroundings on a regular basis. That may be someone who you might find as being more compatible, someone more suitable, or someone who's slightly above. And the reason why I say that is because, when you come into a relationship, if you're young, finding someone who's in your area, on your level, not necessarily in your area that they have to be around your area, but someone who's like on your level or slightly above your level can be very attainable. Can be very attainable, and the two of you can grow together as a couple, as opposed to looking for a man who is your come up, you know. And women have always done that, looking for a man who's going to be their come up, but more marriages happen and tend to be more lasting when they find someone who is more on their level or maybe slightly above that. And the two of you grow and build together as a couple, you know. I say about my husband, you know, we met in a similar area, roundabout. He lived in the town next to mine. And so I met him in my surroundings. And you look for those qualities still. Look for those qualities that make a man a good man. And so, you know, it may be for you. Maybe sometimes we overlook those men who may be right around us who are good men. So I wanted to say that. Let me also say that throughout this process, you want to also make sure that you are vetting men. This term vetting, we keep hearing it over and over again. For those of you who don't know, it's a political as well as a business term, but it largely means checking out the background of the person who you are seeking. But again, if you're dealing with someone who you know or who's close in your surroundings and such, it's easier to do that. When you seek after these older men, usually those are going to be the ones who have more money. The young guys, they may not, unless they're a professional, you know, unless they are an entertainer or a professional athlete or something like that. But most of the men who are around your young age isn't going to be there. They're not going to be there. They'll be there, meaning financially, they're not going to be in that space. The older men who sometimes you may be encouraged to look for, keep in mind, and I would encourage you not to so much look for older men, you know, 15, 20 years plus. The reason being that the longer people live, the more baggage they have. And the men who you meet who are far older than you, they may be more well established. They may be through playing with some games, although not always. But usually they have a lot of baggage that goes along with all of that. And some of them, you know, they got a trail of tears behind them of the women and the stuff and all of that. So it may not make good for a good marriage. And also, older men are also very well sought after by lots of women, especially if he's established. And so then you're dealing with that same level of, okay, he has so much to choose from, and you know, you may not be that special in his eyes. They can play games too, especially nowadays with this whole high value men and, you know, that whole thing. We'll talk a little more about that. Anyway, so I want to get into these, and I know I'm taking long on this, but let me get on into this. I've taken enough time. Number one, I'm going to go through this, not in order, but I'm going to speak about them. Number one is he is a giver. Okay, he's a giver. He gives of his time. He gives of his resources. He gives of his energy to you. He will do that. Now, I'm not saying he has to be paying for this, that, and the other. You know, coming off the back, asking a man to pay for your rent. I think that's kind of bold when women do that kind of thing. But, you know, but he's a giver of his time and of his means. If you meet a man who you guys are both in college, neither one of you probably have a lot of money, and don't expect that from him. But even in the little that he has, if he's a good man, he will still try to give and share with you. He eating a bag of potato chips, you know, he's going to share those potato chips with you. You know what I mean? It's in the little things that a man does early on that tells you a lot about his character and what kind of man he is. Okay, so he's a giver. Number two, he's a leader. He accepts leadership and he respects leadership. Okay, the leader. He will take the lead. He likes to take the lead. He respects leadership and authority figures around him, he respects that. He's not this one that's always trying to rebel against any and all authority figures. Keep an eye out for that, because that speaks some things about his character. That speaks some things about him not wanting to follow certain order and procedures, which can come up later and be problematic, which I'm going to get to some of that. He's comfortable about you having a level of leadership, right? Meaning, let's say if you guys are going somewhere and it's somewhere that you're very comfortable with, you've been there before, and you're showing him around, he doesn't feel threatened that you are taking the reins on this thing. He will allow himself to be led by you in this place that you're showing him. It doesn't make him feel uncomfortable for his woman to show that she also has some leadership, right? And I want to be really clear. This word leadership oftentimes gets confused with being bossy or being a bully. That's not what true leadership is. True leadership, I mean, that's a type of leadership, let me say that. But that's not the most conducive for a relationship or for a marriage. True leaders, the best leaders, help to bring leadership out of others, and they see talent and leadership in others. They encourage you to bring out those things in yourself. So look for that leadership and respecting the leadership, okay? In your man, that makes forth a good husband. The third thing I have is standards. This man will have standards, okay? And ask him about them. Ask him about his standards. What are some of your standards? What are your deal breakers and such? And if he's a man who's actually thought about these things, he will be able to articulate it to you. And if he's a good man in the works, he has standards. He keeps standards. And as men age, they develop more standards, or at least they should develop more standards. And that's something to look out for, because it is a good quality. Be mindful of how you fit into those standards or don't fit into them. Like one of these things, I know a lot of men do not like women, or don't like when women use profanity. And you may never know that. You may never know that, but you speak to him, you may get that word from him that he doesn't like that. Or if you're a woman who's using profanity, he may just kind of cut you off and make distance. You may never know why. So that has to do with some of your values, but you can ask him and see what he tells you in terms of those standards. But he has standards. Number 5, I have, he honors and respects you. Honoring and respect you. And he also won't allow others. He won't allow others to disrespect you, right? This is what I'm meaning when I say he honors you. He honors the position that you are in his life. If you guys are just casually dating, which is something that I encourage. Check out my video on dating advice. I'm not talking about getting sexual, but you are casually dating and you may be dating multiple men. Well, he may be doing the same thing too, dating multiple women, going out with them, talking with them, and things like that. And so he'll communicate that with you. If you ask him, if you ask him that question, he'll be respectful of you in that. He will tell you the truth about it. He won't lead you to believe that it's something more than what it is. That's respecting you. And if you guys decide to move things further and become more exclusive, he will respect the fact that you guys are being more exclusive, and he won't allow someone else to disrespect the position that you now hold and have, right? So that's honoring you, and that is respecting you. So he honors and respects you, and there's other ways that this can be shown, but I'm just giving some examples of that. Number 6 is he protects you. He protects you. He looks out for you. And this can be done in many different ways. Like, let's say you're going to go make a vehicle or some big purchase. He may opt to go with you. He may ask, well, let me go, I want to help you do that. He's going to look out for you. There's one thing that kind of touches me a little bit, and it speaks volumes to me, that a lot of times you see men and women walking on the sidewalk, and it's always an odd thing for me to see the woman walking on the outside. You know, it's odd to me to see that, even if they're not together. But that's one of those little things that a man will do. He will walk on the outside. Now, I'm not saying it's a deal breaker, right? But it's one of those subtle things that he is showing and demonstrating that he's looking out for you. He's protecting you, right? So a man, he's willing to protect you. Now, I want to be clear about something. A man who's ready to go toe to toe and fight with somebody physically and do something violent to someone right off the back, and he doesn't know you well, that's a red flag. That's a red flag for something else that might be dangerous down the line. So that's not what I'm talking about. That's something to kind of stay away from. You don't want somebody who's going to do that. This is a guy who apparently has nothing to lose, and he will get too emotional. So that is a red flag. Be careful of that, right? But he will show you that he will protect you in little ways, which may become bigger ways over time, all right? Number 7, he values you. He values you. He values the things that you say. He values your position as a woman. He values your opinion, you know. And sometimes men don't always want to hear, like, we can talk sometimes too much, you know, and sometimes they don't always want to hear all the talking, but he will still value what you've had to say about something. Or if you've asked him not to do something or to do something, he considers it. He weighs it, and he respects it. He tries to honor it. Okay, so he values you. That's very important. Number 8, he adds value to you. He adds value to you, meaning he adds or multiplies you, right? That's how he adds value to you. Meaning he's able to teach you things. You learn things with him. You learn things from him. He increases you. You become a better person by way of being with him. You learn more things about life and about living, about keeping yourself and carrying yourself. My husband, one thing I really love about him, there's a lot of things, there's so many things I've learned with him, you know, learned from him. And it's increased me as a person. You know, and I know that there are things that he's gotten from me, but we're just talking about you now as the woman and being able to learn from your man, from a potential man. And this makes him very valuable when he can increase you as a person. He feeds into you. He teaches you about things and about life. So he adds to you. All right. He adds value to you. All right. Number 9, and this is a big one. The first time I did this, for some reason, I left it out, and I had to put this one in. He yields himself to an authority higher than himself. Let me say that again. He yields himself to an authority higher than himself. And what this means is people will say, well, he's a spiritual man. He has a belief in God, and that is aligned with certain principles that he practices. He has maybe a father figure in his life, his father, a stepfather, an uncle, or imam, or a pastor, somebody. There is someone or something that he leans on, that guides him, that gives him principles, that helps to guide his principles in life. That is extremely important. It's extremely important in marriage. Why is that important? It's important because when you guys, and I'm not saying if you guys, I'm saying when you guys have disagreements, then there needs to be something there that you all will be able to lean to. And it is important that he has something that he leans to, something that can take him out of an emotional state if he's there, somebody that can talk him down and like, hold on, and talk something, I'll just say talk some sense into him. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you understand, a man can sometimes be stuck on the things he's saying. And he may not even be angry about it. He just may be you know, he may be one of those hard-nosed kind of men. And if there's nobody who can talk any sense into him or rationale or reasonability in him, you know, and don't expect that person to be you, because it shouldn't be you. It should be someone else outside of your marriage, who someone else or something else, like he follows the Bible, or he follows the Quran, or he has certain other spiritual or religious principles that he sticks with, that he will respect, to lean on when those things happen, that will check his own, that will allow him to check himself and say, okay, yeah, and that you can even remind him of at those times, and he will be able to yield to it. He will yield to it. He'll have enough discipline and respect to yield to it. That's hugely important. Hugely important. A man who cannot yield or submit to anything is basically a lawless man. That's what he is. He's a man that's not following any level of law, and he creates law as he goes, or that's what he is choosing to do. But that's described as a lawless man. And a lawless man becomes a dangerous man, especially if he has passions and emotions, and you know, he can become a very heartless man. So that is an important thing to look for. A man who is yielding himself to a higher authority. Something else I want to say about that, I'll just leave that at that right there. But, and the last one is that he loves you, or rather you open his heart, and he has the ability to love you. He's a man whose heart is open. And that ties back into what I said in the first video as one of those things that, in my opinion, would be a deal breaker, and that is him being kind. That kindness shows a lot about his heart and his ability to love, his ability to open his heart. You know, the Bible says that a man, it says, wives, respect your husbands, but it says, husbands love your wives. Now, it's interesting as to why they say something different for the man. And what I understand it to be is that love helps to temper a person. And love will temper him. That means soften him. That means make him take pause at what he's doing. That kind of ties into the man of being a man of law, right? A man who does follow some kind of principle or some kind of authority figure or something that guides him. Well, that love also is a guiding principle, and it will allow him to stop and pause, you know, before he gets violent with his woman, before he says something that will be extremely hurtful. His love will cause him to step back and temper his words and his actions. All right. And that's it. That's it. These again are just 10 principles that I think are very important for a woman to look for, and you add it with the first 3 that I mentioned. So if they can't get past the first 3, it's not even necessary to go into these last 10 right here, because this is for somebody who you're like, yeah, I think he might be the one. You know, if he can accommodate these things. These are things to look for, in my opinion. In my 45 years of living on this earth, as well as things that I've learned, as well as things others have taught me, and even things that I've read, all of it put together, these are the things that I'm saying. And hopefully this will be helpful advice for you. Hopefully you can use it. I'm sure you can use it. Remembering to vet all along while this is going on, and knowing that this comes in different packages of men, and also knowing that you have work that you must do as well, so that you may be that beautiful prize that a real hero is able to attain. All right, that's it for now. If you'd like to give it a thumbs up, please share it, subscribe, and ring the bell notifications so you know when I upload videos. I do them at different times now. So that's it. And with all things, as I say, ladies, be beautiful inside and out. All right, peace.